Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, kicking the silver action back off on a Tuesday. I mean, what else would you rather be doing on a Tuesday, especially with the fantastic things going on in the market? Certainly, joined by Jorge of Reina Silver, who's hopefully going to explain what I can't figure out. But look at that chart. I mean, look at the price action. So it's basically silver has, been in perfect equilibrium at the $26 level, just like flat for that little while, or maybe a little volatility, but then rockets higher on no news that I am aware of. Jorge, you're closer to the maybe you can let us know if maybe you found like 500 million ounces yesterday, or no, maybe somebody lost five. You would think if the price went up, supply would have had to go down, so maybe they had lost 500 ounces. But hey, this is, as we will dig into, I'm still the chump who's confused of why the price was lower the day after the greatest buying spree in the history of silver.
Yeah, I mean it's
Jorge,
crazy.
those 3 days, they bought more silver than the Hunt brothers, I think, depending on how you measure. Right.
Yeah, no, I was watching everything like a hawk over the weekend, with this short silver squeeze 2.0. I think just at the end of the day, you've discussed this in your show at nauseum. There's obviously other forces at play, and it's going to take a while to dislodge them. But I personally very excited about people really taking control of their personal finances and buying physical silver, changing their SLV to the PSLV, buying shares of silver mining stocks, buying shares of silver exploration stocks like our company. I think we're moving on the right track, but this metal has been manipulated for years and years. It's not going to change overnight. And
Jorge, I gotta stop you there. I heard that's wild conspiracy theory that Luke would think that Wall Street would manipulate all the other markets and then silver on top of it. So, do you care to defend that statement, sir?
Well, listen, it's very hard for somebody in my position to have that. To have the exact insight as to what's going on. But I'll tell you what, and I think this applies to all of us as silver investors. I think we all have enough common sense to look at the CPI numbers every month. And, you go to the gas pump and you see the gas is going up. You go to the supermarket, everything is more expensive. You look at the commodity index, almost every commodity is at an all-time high. Copper close to an all-time high, beef close to an all-time high. All the grains, the majority of them at an all-time high. The battery metals close to all-time high. Really, one of the few metals that hasn't hit all-time high or close to it.
Jorge, you forgot lumber. That one's skyrocketing too. Although I guess we really couldn't cover the whole list in one episode, right?
Right. So you tell me, Chris. Take some cash every week for the groceries for the family, and that's I don't know how it's in the US, but certainly that's increasing. So I think we all are skeptical of those.
Food isn't part of CPI. That's stripped out because it's volatile, even though it's calculated on a 12-month average basis. So you're gonna have to do a little better than that. Meat looks like it's.
I'll tell you where I'm at, Chris. I think we're at a point where just out of common sense, we really have to think about silver just as a protective, just to preserve your wealth, and you have to really lock out all the outside noise. You have to stop thinking about, because every day is just such a roller coaster for all of us who are invested in the sector. You see, as you were saying before the call, how is it possible that on the biggest buying day of physical silver in certainly in the last few years, silver goes down, or even the Fed last week talking about temporary rise in inflation. It makes no
Just
sense.
for it's kind of like they mentioned in The Big Short. It's just a little gully, but it's transitory. And actually, one quick question before that. You mentioned something earlier. You said that there was indications. For example, would corn going up? What is that? It was about 300, so 600 would be a double. So it went up 1.5x since last year. Is that the kind of thing, or maybe like the soybean chart? Were those some of the? Now I don't really normally pay attention to these because they're not in the
I'll tell you
CPI,
what,
which is where I hear the pros look.
I'm in Mexico at the moment, which is where I'm from. And I was talking to my mom, and she was just telling me, the prices of everything in the grocery stuff is just, like avocados, which is, as you know, a big staple of our diet here in Mexico, 4 times the price of last year. Tortillas, which is the Mexican government subsidizes, but otherwise also going up. At some point you really need to. At some point, all of these indicators just become a joke, a big joke. they move from being a conspiracy theory kind of territory to becoming more and more the kind of thing that we all, without any level of education, just with the dealings of daily life, you need to realize that you need to protect your wealth. And all the asset classes are going up at a time where everybody's losing their jobs. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and the stock market is at an all-time high. Real estate prices are high.
Well, Jorge,
yes.
What would you say if I pointed out that on the lean hog chart, which obviously only a fool would enter into the calculations for cost of living, yet if you look from about April 12th to April 19th, the price came down. How does that factor into your analysis? So in that chart, there is a week where the price came down. Thereby, would that be a sign of an inflation deficit pandemic around the corner, or how would you factor that in?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, Chris.
You might need, fortunately, now, okay, actually a follow-up question. I mean, I know that's impossible to forecast without Goldman Sachs or the Federal Reserve's sophisticated analysis, which, Jorge, I'm hoping, I
Chris,
didn't give you this question beforehand. It's a little unfair, but I know, well, you're on my big boy list, so I throw some curveballs. I know you're up for a challenge. I wonder if you can perhaps text Peter McGaw and see if he was aware of the new Goldman Sachs technology that found out that copper is now the greatest electrical conductor, or the greatest conductor of electricity, according to Jeff Curry of Goldman Sachs. So we'll get to that too. But I guess when you see something like that in the, what chart were we looking at? Lean hogs, where there's a week in there that the price didn't shoot farther up, despite a double in the last year, probably more. Look, non-fat dairy is not an all-time high. Would you say that's a sign that the Fed will need to act to buffer the economy against the low inflation pandemic that could be right around the corner, conceivably?
Yeah, it's very hard to know, Chris. I've been just wondering, like, for instance, what's the Fed going to do if they don't, for instance, if they don't raise rates? Last week, I'm sure you saw in the news that they're selling bonds that have 0% interest. So I mean, they're running out of tools to keep this thing afloat. But the reality,
Jorge, come on, be serious now. What's the interest rate on the bond?
Well, I think if you take the CPI, closer to reality, I think we're already in negative territories, right? But
although if you're doing a comparative analysis, as the type of training I learned on Wall Street, if you compare it to negative yielding Ponzi scheme treasuries, a zero yielding bond, for example. Actually, here's one way of looking at it. Which would you rather have if you have to hold it to maturity? If I gave you $1 million of 10-year treasuries, or the same dollar value of 100-year Argentina 0% coupon bonds? Which would you take?
Yeah, I still would. I've been to Argentina a couple of times, and I would certainly not buy those.
Yeah.
As bad as it would take a lot before you take that paper. But
well, I don't know. The U.S. 10-year Treasury. I mean, let me put it like this. Especially as I think about the biases that exist, and I don't know, maybe I've broken through some of them, maybe not. We'll find out one day. But if I had the choice to put on the U.S. Treasury Argentina spread for even, and I could pick either side, I mean, just when you think about it, I mean, Argentina, at least everybody already thinks it's junk, so it's gotten beaten up. Where I mean, it's like the same. The U.S. Treasury is the equivalent of Goldman Sachs. It has this name brand that people get suckered by repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yet, it's like as much free. It's free money almost. If you could actually get someone to take the other side of that, or I don't know, would you take the U.S. half of that trade? I'll put 10 ounces of silver. I'll take Argentina if you want the U.S. Treasury. Would you take that?
Yeah, I guess. I'd rather not have any treasuries at all. I just don't see what, say, other than institutional investors who need to keep making, being in the business. I just don't know who in their right mind would be buying, bonds at this time that have zero interest. I think at the end of the day, it's
there's a lot. There's Jeff Curry is perhaps one name that would pop to mind. Bush family has to invest somewhere, right?
That's right.
Can't fit all that productivity they created into just the silver market, as you well know. Jorge, I got a little mind blower for you, if I may.
Yeah.
Because clearly, I don't know. We'll see. I don't see any inflation in these commodities, so we'll leave that aside and go take a look at. Have you looked at the palladium price lately?
Yeah, I did.
Oh wow! Live spoof on the air. How exciting is that? Wow, Jorge, you got the price tamped down right during your appearance.
Oh, there you go.
It must be maybe Jeff was listening. And they might have had new people buying shares of SLV. So even though it's just a trust holding the metal and has no economic incentive, and actually if there was any hedge, because if they have the cash, but they don't have the silver exposure, it'd be a long COMEX future, despite futures being prohibited in the prospectus. Ooh, prohibited in the prospectus. You see that? But yeah, live spoof on the air. Maybe Jeff and Goldman were hedging. Or I will ask you, forget palladium, no time for that now. What do you think is, did you just find 500 million ounces of silver, which has been hit, you were going to hit the wire with it, and that dropped there's so much supply that the price just dropped. What do you think accounts for that move?
Oh, it's basically inexplicable. I mean, let's look at the news. There probably some economic data that came up. It was looking good this morning. But let's look really quickly here at the news. But it's the price of gold and silver just getting knocked down on. One day the jobs number looks a little less terrible than it was expected. Brings it down. It's like you can never. It's completely detached from fundamentals, completely detached from reality, and I think that's why so many people are getting so anxious and so frustrated. I get to speak with investors, who are investors in our company, and most investors in silver stocks are obviously very bullish on the metal, and their confidence on the metal just keeps getting shaken down every single day, because nobody likes to see, as you said in the beginning of the call, a day where silver physical buying on the retail side was at a record high, and then the silver price is going down. When you see the Fed talking about inflation creeping in, when the other thing is, like, the pandemic is what's happening in India is pretty scary. I think all of us thought by the time this time of the year would roll along, we would be sort of coming to the tail end of the pandemic. And yes, in the US, it's getting under control, but what about the rest of the world? What's going to happen if that mutant strain comes back to the Western countries, and then it turns out the vaccine is not as effective? I think, like I said to you at the beginning, Chris, I think what we all need to do as investors in the space is, be really, sort of try to block the short-term noises. Every day it's gonna be a situation where the silver and gold prices get knocked down because of basically the way the market is right now is completely detached from reality. But you just have to use your common sense, and at this point, it's really the way that I personally see it. It's really just a way to preserve your wealth. Forget about whether silver goes to 50, and it really has become I think a must to have. And think about silver in the context of what I said at the beginning of the program as well. It's one of the few commodities that has not hit an all-time high this year or close to it. There's, I think, one or two or three commodities. Everything else, gold, palladium, platinum, copper, nickel, everything else has hit all-time high or close to it. So you have to really use your common sense and think about why silver hasn't hit an all-time high when the retail buying. I mean, we discussed this. Your guests have discussed this so many times, day after day. All the forces. I don't think we need to discuss them again. But the reality is, I come back to the same point. I think we all, as silver investors, just have to block the outside noise and just stay steady. And I'm very excited about all the different chat rooms at Wall Street Silver and so on and so forth. I think the movement of people taking their money out of the SLV and put them into the PSLV, or even better, buying physical silver. I think those are very positive, and that's what we all have to do. I was also very encouraged by, I don't know if you saw, Endeavor Silver, half of their, I forget if the month production or quarter production, they withheld, so they've only sold half of it. I think that's what we have to do as an industry. I know people like Keith Neumeyer has been very vocal about the outrage that it is for silver producers, where they have no control of their price. Hopefully as an industry and as a group of investors, all of whom are attracted to the metal, we can keep working together to break this vicious cycle of silver manipulation. One thing I'll share with you, Chris, is in Asia. I've been discussing with a lot of the sort of industry players, and we're in the process of forming a silver council of Asia, because there is such a thing in the West, but really nothing that sort of brings together the Indian and Chinese producers as buyers, jewelers, bullion buyers, and then see what at the end of the day, most of the physical silver and most of the physical gold ends in Asia. As you know, the Shanghai, I forget the name of it right now, black out on the name, but
Shanghai Gold Exchange.
The Shanghai Gold Exchange is now really becoming a real player. Over the years, because I'm based in Hong Kong, I've gone to visit periodically the smelters and bullion importers in India, and it's pretty amazing, Chris. I mean, there's only 6 of them that have the license, and each of them bring the equivalent of Australia's gold production in a year worth of gold into the country, and they don't really have a lot of I don't know the reason why, but it's a very strange situation in the gold market where you can think of any other industry where somebody makes a product, and then the person who makes it has no, like, as soon as they make it, then it's gone. Somebody else picks it up, and then the buyer also has.
Are you saying there are some industries that are able to still be competent in today's business place without a COMEX futures contract?
Yeah, look at diamonds,
right?
Look
at
the
claim.
Yeah, look at the beers, right? Like they mined the diamonds, they've marketed the product, and that's I think that would be almost impossible to do with gold, but certainly it would be possible to do with silver, right? It's small enough of a market. Of course, too many other forces at play, but still, you have to wonder why, as an industry, there is such a, and I think Keith Neumeyer, who has been very vocal about this for many years, but it is a bit crazy that you just have your product and then it it just basically disappears, and then you have no control over the price. If you look at a couple of years ago, Sprott, I think in partnership with IAM Gold and Yamana, started a company that was looking at using blockchain technology to track the units of gold that got sold into the market, and then try to bypass the COMEX and have a more direct selling and buying directly to the end consumer. I think that's fantastic. I don't know how that has gone. I haven't seen any update. That's something that happened a couple of years ago, but I thought it was a fantastic idea, and I think we need more of that. It's not gonna happen overnight, but look at in a sense. I'm also very excited what's happened with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, just in the sense that you may or may not believe in it long term as an asset class, but the fact that it does give the holder of the assets control over their own destinies, so to speak. And I see physical silver as a similar kind of asset, where you're taking possession of something. I really enjoy and credit to the work that you do, Chris, in terms of being very vocal about this. But again, people taking the money out of the SLV, where I think we all understand the absurdity of the custodian being also the custodian of the SLV also being one of the bigger players in all the shenanigans that happen in the market. So, take your cash out of there, put it on the
one of the bigger gangsters in the Ponzi arena.
So I mean, listen, I think those are all things that are very positive for the basically for the asset class. And then like I said, I speak to a lot of investors during my week as part of my day job as the CEO of Reina Silver. And I mean, everybody's very shaken because, if you remember, when was it, in March, when we had the first silver squeeze, I think a lot of people who were not familiar with the sector came in. And then I think every day that something like what happened yesterday, last weekend, everybody talking about, silver squeeze 2.0, and then, people understanding. I think the silver story is very easy to understand for anybody. I find that whenever I speak to family offices or funds that are generalists, the macro of silver is very easy to understand. The fact that inflation is coming in, the fact that the money printing long term, it's a very interesting asset class. But then people get into the market, and then this volatility really shakes people's confidence. And I think for myself, it shakes my confidence too. And in my case, I'm running a silver exploration company. So we also have to make business decisions sort of with a consideration of where silver might be in the mid to long term. And it's easy to get your confidence shaken. And I won't lie to you, Chris, because we all understand what's happening. We might not know exactly all the dynamics and the ins and outs of who is doing what, but it's becoming more and more transparent to understand. But for me personally, what I do is just try to block the day-to-day noise, and just understanding in my personal opinion, you have to have silver, physical silver, as a core portion of your portfolio. Gold and silver, of course, physical, and then have the silver miners and the silver exploration companies to have additional upside to silver, and then just build a position, and then just block the noise and just block the noise and keep it as a long-term investment. That's really where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of great points you have there, and makes sense. I mean, here's the Fed's balance sheet. I mean, they might hit 8 trillion by the time we wrap up here today. I mean, this is another thing I think that I find in my experience that Wall Street is a master of getting people to not understand. They don't really get the extent. I mean, sometimes it's like up or down, but there's an extent. And that was something that was helpful about the derivative trading for me, because here's the Fed's balance sheet. So that's 800, almost 900 billion. So from 1913, like since the Fed's inception, 95 years earlier, they went from 0 to 900 billion. So under a trillion. Yet in the last, here's where silver was $50, around 2 trillion. It's a 4-bagger since there. It's an 8-bagger since 2008. Yet silver's lower. Kind of like check this whopper out. Let's see how much is getting spoofed a little more. Okay, right, 44 cents. Here, look at this magic trick. Here's January 28th, the day before silver squeeze started. You see silver crosses above 26.50. Then you have the greatest buying spree. I don't know. There was 120 million ounces in the ETFs alone. That didn't even count the coins and bars, which I would say probably had to be bigger than, I think the Hunt brothers had like 110 or something like that in physical.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe like a ballpark, another 100 or so in COMEX. But I mean, geez, it looks like the LBMA was bigger. They said they were running out of metal. And then after all that, here's the blue line, the second. There's 26.50. So by the second, price is actually lower than before all of this starts. Here again, this is from this week. Here, May 2nd. Actually, here's Friday on April 30th. So the thing's just sitting there, floating along. I mean, pretty close to $26. Then yesterday, just torches higher. And now then it's sitting there long, and now it's just $27. And it's fascinating to me how completely stable like a rock. I've never in a history of options trading, I've ever seen a asset with this volatility pattern, and it just drops 50 cents. Although, Jorge, I would wonder how you factor that in with the with this, because I can't figure it out. Let's see.
And in many respects, resiliency and the market structure of the futures market really were able to tamp down what could have been a much worse situation in the silver market.
So I don't know what that means, tamp down, when you have the greatest demand is 3 days. I mean, they almost blew out the damn dealers. Yeah. And he says it's tamped down. So I don't know, like, what am I supposed to think here, where just at $26, then shoots higher? Was this the markets when he's talking about the market structure? Okay, my understanding of the market structure, Rosti, is that a lot of people hold, and this isn't just a guess because I asked Bart Chilton, who confirmed my understanding of the market structure, and 11 years in the hell of Wall Street, understanding their market structure, that at $27, you have a lot of stop orders. You have up, down. There's always at the handle, the big numbers. That's where people put it. And who knows what all the stop orders are? Oh, the JP Morgan that's trading on behalf of their customers, according to Blythe Masters, and wouldn't do anything bad because that would be wrong. Yet, hey, there's their $920 million fine a couple of years later. So apparently Blythe wasn't telling the truth. If you can go figure that. There's also the guy, Daniel Shack, that had a lawsuit against JP Morgan that got tossed out because there was no evidence. Then it turns out JP Morgan was lying. And when they did have the evidence, this guy said something that got them to write a check. It's on my list of things to do, is figure out what that is. I certainly, there's any lawyers that want to make a fortune. I have more evidence, and I'm waiting for someone who's. But I mean, what is this? The tamp down, like the market structure preventing it? It sounded a lot like the guy was talking about price rigging or price fixing in his comments. And I'm curious to you, Jorge, who's built a career. Everything I've ever seen you do is honest. I first met you with David Morgan, who's one of the most honest people I know. I'm pretty sure if you were running something really inappropriate, I think I would have, or someone I know. So you've done things honestly. Dr. Peter McGaw, that people respect around the globe. You guys are getting silver. And here we have evidence after evidence after evidence that the price is getting capped. So I'm curious, for some of the people that are running the companies that have legal groups, I feel like you guys have been getting cheated. I think you got stolen from. And I'm curious. I think a lot of people are as well curious about how the company's about that.
Yeah, I mean, in our case, Chris, our company is obviously a very small company, and we're doing exploration. So it's a different. We're in a different situation where, I mean, in a sense, we have less control and less power. But I'll tell you what, the people who really have some level of control is the mining companies, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are supplying the product. And then to some extent, people like Eric Sprott, who's committed some serious money into the sector, and who has Sprott Asset Management and the different Sprott companies that have a created a product in their physical silver ETFs that that's obviously nowhere as close to the SLV, but becoming a significant player. I mean, those investors and those companies, those are the ones that are obviously getting screwed, and it's not an insignificant amount of, it's a whole industry. It's all the people who are extracting the metal from the ground, the miners, Chris, I do 6 to 7 site visits a year to mines. It's a tough work. I don't know if you've ever been to the underground of a mine, but I've done it on a number of occasions. And once you go into, I mean, it's not the most pleasant, or and it's obviously entails a fair bit of danger. And then, of course, the people who are buying the product in the hopes of preserving their wealth. So certainly, it's something that's pretty scandalous, that what's going on. And we're as individuals, we're not necessarily in a position to investigate and spend we're gonna have the resources to be able to fight this. But I think the mining companies do have maybe a better opportunity. And I know that like I said, certain mining CEOs have tried to band together, but I think it's really gonna need something completely out of the box, to really challenge the status quo, so to speak. And, to be honest, one of the things that I've noticed about the mining industry in the time that I've been, and it is one that's very difficult for the industry to try to change the paradigm. For instance, it's been very tough for the mining companies to implement a more renewable technologies, more mining friendly technologies. We still, by and large, use the same mining methods that we used 20 years ago. Part of the reason why, Chris, is because commodities have, for the most part, let's talk about silver and gold. The last 30 years, they've maybe only made money for 4 or 5 of those years. It's mostly been certainly in the last 10 years. It's mostly out of 10 years, the last 7 out of the last 10 years, companies didn't have enough money they're just in survival mode. But I think we have an interesting opportunity now where, it looks like we're going to have a few years of strong commodity prices. Of course, as commodity prices become higher, companies' costs do tend to escalate, but still there should be a healthy profit margin to really start thinking about things like what Endeavor Silver did last week or last month, withhold half of your production. At least that allows you to take control and take some metal of circulation and have some control over the price. So it's a little bit of a battle and a little bit of a war with the powers that be. But I think you're starting to see, like I said, Chris, a lot of positive things, like what we can all do as individuals. Like I said, buying physical silver, getting your money out of the SLV into the PSLV, continue to buy shares of the mining companies, and then the mining companies withholding metal. I think that's fantastic. I think you need to have managements that also believe more in the product. Most people are more worried about the having good quarters, but most CEOs and most boards don't really have the confidence. Now, that's easy for me to say. I've never been in that situation, and I know managing a silver mining company is very complicated. There are so many things that you have to look at, but at some point, those are the things that are necessary for the industry to take control over the product and control of their pricing. Because at the moment, clearly, we're at the mercy of the banks.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said there, my friend, although I don't know if we're at the mercy of the banks.
To some extent. And the other thing, Chris, that I think is that as long as the U.S. Because right now, I think the sentiment in general from investors is that the U.S. economy is going to recover, and a lot of people that I talk to, they think it's just going to basically go off. They're quite optimistic. I don't know if you've started to listen to all these things in the mainstream media. I was listening to MSNBC, listening a little bit to Bloomberg, and you're starting to have pundits come in and talk about how debt is good. Have you heard this new talking point? They're saying, debt.
I've heard things as silly as that.
Debt is, but it's not. It's a talking point because you see it over and over and over repeated. Like in this guy John Oliver had a 30-minute section. I don't know if you saw it, where his whole thing is that HBO comedian. I don't know if you know him. The video had something like 3 million views on YouTube, and he was talking for 30 minutes about how debt is actually good. If it was under the Republicans, it was bad, but under Joe Biden, it's going to be invest wisely. So it's going to, create opportunities. So that's where people are. I mean, that's where people are at, and as long as that mentality is there, you really need the generalist and the sentiment for people to say, okay, I mean, this is crazy that we can have the stocks continue to go. We can have all asset classes everybody's losing their jobs. I mean, look at this is an under. I mean, is that going to come back anytime soon? I mean, I don't think we still have seen the final accounting of the damage that the pandemic has caused over and it hasn't finished. And you know what, Chris? Let's hope this is not true, but we're still not out of the woods. And what happens if that Indian strand or the Brazil strand becomes it's resistant against the vaccine? God forbid. I think those forces are still very much in play, and until there's some more general consensus that you need to start looking at protecting your wealth and getting some money out of bonds and equities and more into precious metals and other commodities. I think we're going to be in this sort of limbo.
Yeah, well, I believe it's happening now. And I guess, yes, there's one sense in which parts of the systems are dependent upon the banks. Although that's why I really appreciate what you mentioned earlier, because this is what the banks remind me of. Soda Popinski. Did you have Mike Tyson's Punch Out when you were growing up, Jorge?
I did, yeah.
Remember big, drunk, slavishly, kind of racist that they make the Russian guy the drunk one. Love this government that cares so much about races, but it's okay to call Russians the bad guy. We're supposed
Well,
to keep them.
to be honest, I don't think Russians would take offense at that characterization. They would be proud of it.
I mean, in either case, like, I guess that's the thing where it hit me a couple years ago where, hey, if people want to have a president and, different guy to make laws that he violates every couple of years, knock yourself out. But these are the reasons why I am leaving the U.S. for the second time now. And by the way, how honored do I feel that, rather than like, reading on like Google or whatever, I just get to call my friend Jorge, who's already in Mexico. And Jorge, is it true that you have been scouting out the most appropriate pool bar options so that when I get there, and for other people who are just tired of all the nonsense and looking for somewhere, I mean, I hear you can actually live more like a normal person there.
Yeah, you can.
Than at least what I've experienced some parts here.
I'll tell you, I just got here last week, and it is a little bit shocking the extent at which people are living carefree. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% that it's such a good idea. Only because a lot of the Americans who are coming into Mexico obviously have had the vaccine, so they're not wearing a mask. But the rates of vaccination here in Mexico are still pretty low, and so I'm a little bit worried about that.
But this is an aquatic area, which I believe has different metaphysical properties.
I'm not 100% sure that that setup still. I haven't seen that back, but maybe.
I'm gonna be the guinea pig, though. You throw me in there. In fact, here's the great thing about technology today. Maybe we could even get me a waterproof cell phone, and I can talk about silver from the pool. That's just the kind of range I have, which I'm excited to come down there and demonstrate. And actually, I'd love to talk more about what you mentioned, what you were doing with certain companies in the East, because I'm not sure if you've seen this, created something called the Silver Industry Integrity
Committee. Yeah, no, I did see that. That's very good.
And anything that I can do to support that.
Absolutely.
I get emails from people all day. They're tired of seeing the price rig. They're tired of hearing commissioners talk about price control and then they won't answer. They're tired of and they're asking, hey, and all I'm trying to do is create a legal way. I don't want to do anything inappropriate. I have no need to. So, but just like whatever, to me, there's a clear crime happening. And I think it's not an accident. They call it the silver cartel because there's the real collusion. I mean, and so I think and we're figuring it out. What is the appropriate way? I mean, hey, some companies, maybe they can withhold production, maybe others can't, but just having a discussion in a safe forum where people who, you pointed out, there's people who are going digging this stuff out, not the easiest conditions. I mean, they're getting stolen. So JP Morgan's floor trade or desk traders can get a bigger bonus. It's disgusting. And I think hopefully if Yara is still watching this one, we can start getting the I'm with Jorge. And let's also make a Jorge Legend t-shirt. That way you have different shirt for 2 days of the week. You don't have to wear the same one. Plus, now I do need 1 day a week for my Jeff Christian It Gets Resolved Another Way t-shirt. Although we don't want to have that one in the pool, but I think it's incredible. I'm inspired to hear it. People are asking about it all the time. Your shareholders ask about it. All the silver mining companies, your shareholders are asking about it. So I understand there's the constraints and you're running a business, but I do think that goes a long way, even just looking into what's possible.
I'll definitely once that they're set up, I'm going to introduce you to them, and I have followed what you're doing. I think it's great, and definitely doing a good job at creating awareness and educating people, including myself. I've learned a lot from your broadcast. I think you're doing a fantastic job, and certainly any way we can support you, we will be happy to.
Well, you've already done so much more than you know, although the spirit's repaying us both live on the air here. Jorge, would you like a breaking scoop?
Sure.
Because today we got live for your parents. A double spoof So you had the spoof down and then looked like maybe it'd rebound, but then you get another spoof lower. And just a quick look at the volume chart, which offers absolutely zero clue of what could have happened here. The fact that the price falls off a cliff. Wait, Jorge, did you find those 500 million ounces, or did some company find a big chunk to boost up the LBMA's reserves, or when they hammered the price? And when I asked Bart Chilton, he said he said they do buy it back lower. Or was that just the latest example of disgusting bank fraud, of which regulators look the other way and help tamp down the price, while the people who actually go out, as you said, and mine the silver pay the price of that? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's something, huh?
Although, perhaps the best way to sum that up is that I appreciate the people who watch the show and have sent kind comments, and appreciate the things I'm doing. And certainly that does mean a lot. Although it's something I've been noticing in the last week or so. If there has ever been a time to get involved in whatever way is appropriate for you, whether it's silver or healthcare or whatever, if you're seeing things happening that you don't like, I get lots of emails. People are saying, hey, can we do a class action suit? And we have a list for people who are interested in legal action. I've talked with a bunch of lawyers. I have the evidence. I'm now trying to I can't be a lawyer too. I'm doing what I can. And so, I mean, when, I call SLV, call iShares, call JP Morgan, ask your questions. You don't have to do what I do, but I mean, any of these things. And Jorge, I really admire what you mentioned, how everybody has their own things, but imagine if the success is not when you get the CFTC to answer this or that to happen, but if 1,000 people today made one phone call to one of these institutions, but just one thing worked, and then this guy's client said, holy shit, I got to get my money out of this, or this guy's. So that would be one thing. I'm just wrapping up, and I think you've set a great example, Jorge, and then it's making a difference. We're seeing it make a difference. The silver squeeze was the best example of that, and they told you how scared they were.
Yeah.
So Jorge,
absolutely.
Perhaps in wrapping up, can you just let folks know if they have questions, they want to find out more about Reina?
Yeah, for sure.
I can't give official buy sell recommendations in today's
listen,
Gestapo legislative culture, but how do they get more information?
So our website is www.reinasilver.com. That's REYNA silver.com. There it is. It's a public company in Canada and also trading in the OTC. In Canada is RSLV. In the OTC is RSNVF. And we're an exploration company where basically the premises of our company, we have 3 projects in Mexico and 1 in Nevada. I'm actually heading to the Nevada project tomorrow morning. And, they're all brownfield mines that were high-grade producers during its day, mostly late 1800s and early 1900s. And what we're doing is partnering with Peter McGaw, who's the most successful exploration geologist in the last 20 years for silver, and applying modern-day exploration to basically prove a large resource using modern exploration methods. So that's what we're doing. We're drilling at the Gigi project, about to start drilling in our Batopilas project, and lots to. If you're interested, do look at our website. If you want to contact me directly, I have an email which is Jorge@reinasilver.com. And if that's a mouthful for some of you, you can just write to me directly from the website. There's an investor, I think you can just a place where you can do investor relations at reinasilver.com, and that email comes to my box. And the other thing that I'll offer is we have a great book on the history of one of our projects called Batopilas, which was a US company that put together the highest grade silver mine in the history of, I think, humankind, and which is a project we're trying to restart. And the guy who is an American entrepreneur, and he was the governor of Washington, D.C., was the last governor of Washington, D.C. before he became D.C., took his family to Mexico and basically started the first mine in Mexico that was using modern day technology. And he wrote a book, which is an account on how he, got the mine started. And, like I said, the highest grade silver mine in the history of Mexico. And he wrote a book in English that, you unfortunately cannot purchase on Amazon, but we found some copies in a bookshop close to the mine. And if anybody's interested in reading it, it's a fantastic read. If you send me an email at jorge@reinasilver.com, I'd be very happy to send you a copy. If you live in the US, if you live very far away, I'll have to just make sure that it's feasible for us to send it. But no, thank you, Chris. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on all the work that you're doing in educating the public about silver. And I hope we get a chance to talk to you again soon.
All play, no work. I've never had more fun. And I see the Matilda and El Doranzo. That's Sonora. That's right by Silver Viper, right?
Yeah, it's not too far away. Yeah,
Oh.
those are two earlier stage projects that we're not currently exploring. The ones we're exploring are the ones in Chihuahua.
So you just got those in your back pocket after Silver Vipers.
We're actually looking to do JVs with other companies. We have the Trudeau project in Canada that you see all the way north, and we just sold that company to a company called Beyond Minerals, and for shares in their company and a royalty. And then we might look to do something like that with Durazno and Matilda as well. So we get all our projects generating value for our shareholders.
And I see it was named after Trudeau. I won't ask you if that had anything to do with the sale.
No, nothing to do. And Chris, was a very controversial name. We got a lot of violent reactions from Canadian investors who wrote to me and said, why is that name Trudeau? And I have nothing.
Right.
As a Mexican CEO of a Canadian company, I have nothing but kind words about Canada. So, but certainly a lot of the shareholders wrote to me with, but the reality is that's just the name of the town that it's in, and I don't think it has any relationship to the Prime Minister.
Wow, that is truly phenomenal. Yara, can you please put the rush on the I'm with Jorge Legend t-shirts? That is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
And thank you, Chris. And when you're in Mexico, just give us a call, and anywhere we can help you, we'll be happy to.
I've never been more excited about life, and to get down there, I got a couple stops in the U.S. first. I think I'm going to stop in Nevada, see a couple mines, one or two in Colorado, then close up shop here in Austin. And Nibbles is ready. He's ready to sniff out the silver. So you just bring us in. Give me a shovel. I'll be ready to go. And I like that Sonora looks pretty close to the beach. Again, Reina Silver, REYNA Silver. And great to catch up with you as always, Jorge. And
thank you, Chris.
Look forward to doing this again soon, my friend.
Thank you very much.